Be serious!
Were you swearing then?
All right, listen.
Don't, that's my equipment. Don't bang that equipment down unless you've paid for it. Now,
we were bloody brains out. I've forgotten all my notes. I forgot my notes. I did a lot of preparation for this today, and this is the icing on the cake.
This is an excuse, Don. You've never bought notes,
Bullshit.
and now you're trying to pretend that you had some.
Now I'm swearing. Don't get me going.
Well, before.
What? Speaking of.
Before we started,
Shit.
while the music was playing...
Oh, I'm swearing again.
While we were... And you're blaspheming.
I think we'll go off the air.
Don, why don't you go and sit over in an easy chair there? I'll handle the first quarter.
You know what I've been thinking over? What the fuck? Oh,
Don, speak it. Get your head in front of them. I'll tell you, we'll start this again. Don't...
Now listen, I've just realised why I was sane when I played football.
Why you were what?
Sane when I played football. I was in business, and it was an outlet to vent your frustration. Did you use it for football? The football to vent your frustrations in life?
No, I had a fraction modicum more intelligence than that, Don. I did it because I was good at it, and I liked the competitiveness of it. I didn't take it out on anyone. I wasn't that frustrated with
Well, you
my
weren't
life.
in business.
What's that?
You weren't in
I was in business with Doug Wade.
No, you were Doug was the brains, you were the lackey. So you had no worries.
What?
You didn't have any worries in business. Doug was out there doing all the heavy shit.
Don, you've become...
You were just a rep on the road.
You've got Tourette's today.
What? What
do you call it? Well,
Tourette's syndrome.
Hey?
Tourette's syndrome.
Yeah, do you know what that is?
It's similar to Asperger's.
Do you know what Tourette's is?
No, I don't. What is it?
Well, you swear just...
Oh, yes.
You swear inadvertently. You just gratuitously you swear.
Yes.
So, Don...
I'm upset.
So I was in business with Doug Wade for 10 years, very successfully, and we did a great job in a company we had. And I was playing football, captain of Geelong, when I was actually running a business for a decade.
And you were racing down the Hume Highway, the two idiots, in your... What'd you have, V8 Monaros or Fords?
Well, you're telling the story.
Oh, well,
no,
you told me the story.
Bob Davis had sold us... Used to work for Dawson Ford in Geelong. Bob Davis had sold it when he was a car fair dinkum. He was selling cars. He was a car purveyor. He said, he used to call Doug the fat man. He said, why don't you and the fat man, Sam? He said, come and buy a couple of cars from me. So we did. We bought two Fords and we were coming...
What colour were they? The yellow?
They were yellow.
The yellow.
Yeah, and we were coming down. This is before there were speed limits. And I'm sure there were seat belts, but speed limits. We were coming down. We'd been up at a business convention somewhere up in Mildura or something. We're driving back in convoy down the Hume Highway at 90 miles an hour. And the police pulled us up. And... I think they gave us a ticket. I don't think there was a speed limit in those days. Anyhow, we gave the cars back. Bob said, giving the cars back, are you? And I said, yes, Bob. I said, they're just getting us into trouble. Fair dinkum, unbelievable. Anyhow, that was that. Hey? No, just Fords.
Big V8s.
Thank you, Don.
I got to Adelaide in that era in 6 hours. I closed the shop at 9 o'clock. I had to run to the Bay Sheffield, which was on the weekend. And do you believe in the V8 I had? I got there in 6 hours. I was there in 3 o'clock in the morning. Picked up a hitchhiker in Ballarat. I thought he'd keep me awake. He went to sleep.
That would have got his attention.
He went to sleep.
Man,
so
woman?
he was... What, the hitchhiker?
Yeah.
Man.
Okay. Oh, don't look so defensive. Could have
Well,
been...
do you think a woman would be out on the road hitchhiking?
Well,
I don't picked him up in Ballarat at about 10:30. Do you think a woman would be on the road at 10:30?
If a woman wished to get to Adelaide...
Not back in those days.
Oh, not back in those days. If a woman... she would probably be picked up by a truck driver because...
women didn't hitchhike back then, John.
Don, please. Don...
We're in a different era.
Don, I've so many topics I wish to talk about.
Well, I've got none because I've left my book at home.
Yeah, so what topics do you think, off the top of your head, we're going to bring to the table today?
Well, I want to talk about how pissed off I am about coronavirus.
Don, you're swearing too much.
I'm sorry.
You ticked off about coronavirus, are you? Oh, well, gee, that's unusual because everyone's really happy with it.
Well, the weather. I think all these add
the
to
weather and coronavirus.
Add to your mood, or certainly add to my moods.
So in a week of between podcasts, the two topics you thought could be scintillating to the listening audience
No, they're
would
just
be
starting to have an effect.
you ticked off about the coronavirus and the weather.
And then I started to think about other people because I'm fortunate that I can move around. I'd hate to be living in Melbourne, even in those What about the microphone?
Speak into it, Don. How hard is this, man?
It is very hard.
It's not
very
hard.
difficult.
We're opposite one another. We're at least 2 metres apart. You don't have to move your head off mic. You just have to look at me or pretend to and speak into it. Because people think I speak to you and there's no one here because they can't hear you.
There's only one woman who thinks along that line.
Go on.
And she lives in a high-rise in Docklands.
You see, when you looked out the window.
Yeah,
then,
Docklands, where she lives.
Well, you don't have to look at it. Just speak into the microphone. Go on. What were you going to say? You were the weather, the coronavirus, and you're very happy you don't live in the city. For what reason?
Well, you're isolated. You've got to stay inside.
Isolated?
Well, you
3
isolate
million
yourself.
people living here.
I understand, but you cannot socially mix. I would hate to be in that situation, but it's really starting to get to me. I'm also angry about the community that have flagrantly disregarded the coronavirus, and it's taken off in certain areas, and I'm ropeable about that. I'm ropeable about the government, how we're spending $3 million on a bloody inquiry, Daniel Andrews, with regard to the hotel. And if he was any type of leader, he could certainly get to the bottom of it without spending $3 million. And we know where it's gone wrong. All he's doing is putting a Band-Aid over the problem.
So do you remember?
We're not getting the lead. Nobody could do this. We're going into unknown territory. We've got to wear a mask.
So
now the reason why I thought when we had the masks earlier on, they were of no value at all. What is he doing? Get off the phone.
So Don, do you remember when we used to do this with another person who...
Michael Sheehan.
Yes,
We'll refer to him by his name.
Well, it was just a tongue-in-cheek aside.
No, you're being sarcastic and cynical and all of that.
Do you remember when we did this with another person called...
Michael Sheehan.
That I said, and you shrank back off the microphone, and Mick said, "Oh, gee, that's a bit tough." I said, "This is the most corrupt and disorganised government in the world."
I've got to pull you up on a couple. Your use of an adjective or a noun, you go for the most inflammatory adjective or noun. You do not have to get the inflammatory one. Can't you just tone it down and use another noun or adjective?
That's very perceptive of you, Don.
Oh, perceptive.
What?
Well, it's not perceptive of me.
It is perceptive of you because you're spot on. Because I go for the most...
jugular.
I go for the most... provocative way I say things so that they have the most impact. Down? The result is exactly the same. If I said this government is questionable, that's
all you have to say.
If this government is questionable about how they've handled some of the things going on in this community, people say, "Oh, yeah, gee, I think..." If you say this is the most corrupt and incompetent government possibly in the free world, people say, "Wow, that's a bit strong, that's a bit extravagant." And then you get down to explaining exactly what you're explaining.
Yeah, but what you're doing...
And people say,
hang on.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, eventually, but you also get a few people offside.
Oh, well, this is... Now, I'm very glad
I'll give you a classic example on the weekend. Bruce McAvaney gets up and he's commentating, and he comments on...
Dear old Bruce.
Tagoe.
Yep.
Now, he made a mistake. Had you have said it, you would have been hauled over coals because you got priors. You've got priors.
Don.
Now, Brucey gets away with it because he's got so many credits in the bank. Now, what is the difference between Bruce and you in what he said?
Now, I'm glad you haven't bought your notes because that's a very good question, Don. And it gives me a very good opportunity to say this.
I should have bought my notes because I'm shooting my mouth off.
Because Well, this is the best you've been when you're shooting your mouth off rather than looking at a vacuous page of notes that you'd actually never take any notice of. So someone like Bruce has got a lot of credits in the bank because he will be beholden to the company he works for and the AFL, who he speaks about. and he will not be critical or say anything that might be controversial about anyone or anything. I have an opinion, and my opinion is usually, I would say, backed up by more than 80% of the population in this state or country or world. And the very fact that we get criticised by people like, we get criticised by people for having an opinion. I got criticised about saying...
Yeah, but what's that got to do with... What are you getting at?
Because people, like you said, take exception to the way I say things.
Well, you've got priors. That's the problem, and they judge you by priors.
So what priors? Hang on, what priors have I got? Tell me what priors I've got.
Well, you've been a controversial character since Adam was a boy.
So people like the people that criticise us are not controversial because they're not game to have an opinion, because they are not confident with who they are, and therefore they become woke and they become very, very tentative to have an opinion in case they get ripped by people who have an agenda. So if I'd said what dear old Bruce said, that's
you'd be hauled over the coals. Now, why isn't he hauled over the coals?
Because the people who are commentating and giving opinion are so hypocritical, because they don't like opinionated people, even though most of the things I say are absolutely correct. I got hauled over the coals by that, seriously, that person who...
wind it up.
Wind it up.
Yeah, you're going off on a tangent. Did you watch that thing on Peter Falconio on the weekend?
I ain't finished with this yet.
No,
we're going to...
Did you watch the Falconio thing done by Andrew Fraser?
No.
Why didn't you?
No, it was on, Don. Was it on mainstream television?
It was on mainstream
television.
Well, I don't
watch
for
mainstream
2 weeks. And talking about perception, what was his name?
Brad Pitt?
Yeah, Bradley Murdoch. How his facial expression and his appearance swayed the general public in their version, or what could I say, their perception of or what happened. Now, it's unfortunate he had a scowl on his face, a big man, 6'5", and a terrorising character.
Let's hope you never go to court then.
Anyway, a lot of flaws came in the argument that Andrew Fraser put up. So there's a few questions to be asked, but how that we as people, what I'm trying to get at,
what are you trying to get at?
Say how we perceive things to be.
Body language.
All of that comes into play.
Charisma.
All of that comes, not charisma.
Charisma?
Good or bad, you can't have bad charisma.
Bradley Murdoch, was it?
Yeah, Bradley Murdoch.
He could have charisma, even though...
Well, it's got a scary charisma.
He could have charisma. He could woo a jury by having charisma, even though he's...
He had no charisma. His looks and everything and his facial expression wouldn't woo the...
I was just using it as an analogy. Even evil people, if you consider him evil, I'm not sure.
I'm not saying he's evil.
No, you're not. No, all right, and I'm not either. I'm certainly not saying that. Can we say that? No, we can't say that. No,
don't say anything. Just be quiet. We're in enough shit.
No, we're
not. Here I go, my swearing again.
We are in no shit at all, Donald. The only people that you think we're in the shit for are sycophantic people who are not game, who do not have to be successful in order to keep their job. They are just either government employees or they're public servants, and they have no responsibility to be successful or have an opinion. They are just mouthpieces. They are so dumb, most of them, that it makes them look in a perverse way quite attractive, because they are delusionally naive. So we were told by someone who works on the ABC, a woman called... who? Zamiro.
Julia.
Was that her name?
Yeah, she's on Rockwiz.
I don't know.
She's very good on Rock.
Well, hang on.
One of my favourite shows.
She's the woman that called you.
Who, me?
She's the woman who called you and Mike Sheehan racist.
Why?
Me, that just goes without saying. Because of the Winmar discussion we had.
Where did she say this?
Twitter? She said people like you and Michael Sheehan, the other person that used to be on this, and me, but that goes without saying, shouldn't have a forum, a public forum. We should be banned from having a public forum. This is a person.
Why? Well, hang on. Why?
Because she perceived she doesn't understand what our conversation about Winmar was. So she just saw that she printed, or she said, tweeted out, apparently Sheehan told me this, that she got her facts wrong about what we said and who was responsible for doing what on the Winmar incident. And then she said, just a gratuitous aside, said that you and Mick Sheehan were racists. Mick, question.
Racist, I'm not.
Don.
Oh, this gives me this.
So that's exactly what I'm saying.
You know the other thing that came...
No, Don.
Listen, just listen.
No, just let me finish this. That's exactly what people like her and Caroline Wilson do, is that they malign you because you have an opinion, quite a legitimate opinion about something, and then they make arbitrary decisions based on a false premise, and then go on to argue why you are a racist or Mick Sheehan's a racist based on a false premise. They have no responsibility, and as I say, their naivety and the fact that they are delusional actually makes them quite appealing in some sort of way, perverse way, because they are so dumb.
Listen, what we're going through at the moment, I watched a debate the other night. I call them passive intellectuals. Now, passive intellectuals exist on the left and right side of views. We are going to be judged in years to come, this period of whatever you like, as doing absolutely nothing. Nobody comes up with any solutions to any problem. You've got the intellectuals on the left, you've got them on the right, and they're passive. They've come up with nothing at all. And this is what's wrong with our society and community. Oh, no, I shouldn't say community. Society Don, right at the moment, Johnny.
Some of your best stuff today.
Why?
Don. Well, I'll tell you why. Because you're spot on. And the people, the passive...
No, I'm not spot on. I'm wild. I shouldn't be doing this. It should be far more measured.
The passive, intellectuals, you said, are the people who have no opinions.
But they're on the left and right.
Fucking hell. Won't dip a toe in the water, won't have an opinion about why you can criticise some people, not for where they come from or who they are, but not for who they are as individuals. I withdraw nothing of what I said about Adam Goodes at all. I withdraw nothing about saying why they were kneeling before the games, because it was based on a false premise.
So how do you live your life?
Hang on.
I
withdraw nothing about what I said about George Floyd at all. But I said the same thing about George Floyd as I said about Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. I said exactly the same thing, but that just goes through to the keeper, those two things. But as soon as you mention someone from another race and criticise someone, you are a racist, which has become a nebulous and pointless term, because unless you speak highly about someone from another race, if you have an adverse opinion about an individual from another race, you are automatically racist.
Okay, let's just turn over to personal. We had Andrew Bolt on here one day. Now, he's outspoken in his views. You are. Have you ever been threatened, like Andrew Bolt said that he had a...
Don, I've been threatened every day, every week of my life.
So how do you handle it?
Because if you roll over and submit to these people, they've won, Donald. This is what's going on, and I hate to bring this up. Now, I'm going to bring this up. The Black Lives Matter organisation.
Oh, don't.
So here you go.
I'm sick of it.
You're sick of it because that organisation, while it might have meant well in the first instance, and this is why we are linking ourselves, anyone in this country, black, white, blue or brindle, why we are linking ourselves to that organisation, which has been corrupted by anarchists and Marxists, and now use that as an excuse to push an agenda that is actually not in sync with most of the people who live in this country or the other country on the other side of the world, which is called the United States. And no one ever pushes back, except people like Bolt and people like us have an opinion about it, quite happy to discuss it. I have plenty of robust discussions with people who disagree with me, and the people who are not intelligent enough to have a robust discussion just go into the level of abuse threatening and violence and trying to degrade you or defame you. And it is enjoyable actually to engage with people like that, because They
I don't
have,
see
have
what-
no
okay,
more
right.
intelligence than a forest full of trees.
Okay, I cannot see why, we're a diverse community, Australia, that song that they, We Are Australian, you've seen the ad on the ABC, you probably don't watch the ABC,
Not at
where
all.
they have different races or backgrounds, people together
Yes.
singing We Are Australia. Why can't we all just get on, for heaven's sake?
Fantastic, Donald.
Far out,
No,
it's giving me
Donald,
the irrits.
why can't we? But
The people who...
But it's not us that divide people, despite what people say. It's the people who go on and on and on about division. They say, we've done this.
It's given me the irrits because you make a move, you come from... If I was to go to another country, I would have to surrender all my beliefs or whatever. I've made that decision, so I have got to fit into their society and whatever else. If you come to another country... You've got to
So what
assimilate.
people who come from other countries in the main do is, in most cases, is they colonise. They get into colonies rather
and
than...
that's been going on since Adam was a boy. When we were growing up, we had the Italians living in Richmond and
please listen to what I'm
Collingwood,
saying.
wherever else. That hasn't changed, John. I understand.
You don't understand. 'cause
I do,
didn't
because
finish
when
it,
Australians go to London, where do they congregate? Earl's Court, or they used to.
Don, I didn't finish what I was saying. They colonise, but that they still embrace the principles and the virtues of the country that they've colonised to or they've migrated to. Now, I'll give you... Here's... The Coburg Council have got a Black Lives mural they're putting up in their precinct, and they are... now deciding, they are having an advisory committee to decide what statues will remain in that precinct, what plaques will remain. This is about the people who came here, like Cook and Governor Phillip, and who started this country off as we know it, which people will say those people... invaded the country from the indigenous people. Well, that may be so. But how about 200 years ago, this country is what it is today because those people arrived on our shores. Wouldn't it be great if we could placate and unify everyone in this rather than all those people? You have the health minister in this, Van Diemen, saying that Cook's arrival was tantamount to the coronavirus. Van Diemen. Annalise Van Diemen. If you've got government ministers trying to divide people and having a divisive community, I'm all for embracing everyone, but why you're going to pull down statues of our history and how it started, and people are copying it, and they're going to change the names of the places and the street names, surely there's a higher authority than a local government that might say, no, you wait till they paint down Burke Street or in Elizabeth Street in big yellow letters, Black Lives Matter. You wait till that happens and see if anyone pushes back in case they fear retribution. And if you don't push back on it, if you do push back on it, you're accused of being a racist. But I, along with most other people in this country, are very happy with the way it is. Sure, we can do better.
We can do a lot better,
sure,
John. We can do a lot better.
Sure, we can do better. But the main problem is that we keep being divided amongst the Indigenous people and the other people by activists. We are quite happy. I'm quite happy, and so are you, to get on with everyone. But that doesn't preclude me from having an opinion about certain individuals who might be from another race. That's quite a legitimate and healthy debate, Donald. But we get put into pigeonholes by those dumbasses who want to ping you for having an opinion.
Well, I'm more into the practical aspects of solving the problem. Now, I was going to go up to Burke this year, but I can't get over the border just to get out of this joint. And I take an interest in that area up there. Do you know that the police just hang on, let me finish.
Microphone, Don, please.
Let me finish.
Is that near Golden Square?
Let me finish. Don't throw me off the track. And I read the local newspaper from up that area. Do you know that the police get together with the community every morning to solve the problems of the night before? Now, there's something tangible that is working. Now, why don't people come up or start and promote practical ways of solving problems instead of this bullshit that goes on from the passive left and the passive intellectual right and left.
So does that ever get a mention?
No, it doesn't, because it's boring bloody news.
Get a couple. Does that ever get a mention in the mainstream media about how the police might be acting in unison, in hand with the underprivileged? This is what's going on.
It's not underprivileged, it's working with the community.
Underprivileged, of course it's underprivileged. This is what's going on in America at the minute, Donald. They're trying to defund the police because they think in some isolated incidences, which are horrendous and should be dealt with the full force of the law, that the police are against. Their police brutality is rampant. It's not rampant at all. But if you have mobs of people, whoever they are, looting and setting fire to things and burning and pulling down statues and graffitiing town after town across the entire United States, eventually someone has to take responsibility for saying, hang on, let's stop this. And the police come out and suddenly they're the villains. And
what would happen if the police over there, I posed this question, said, we're not going to go on with this, we're all resigning? Now, I don't know, give me a town, Portland.
Hang on,
New York. The army's gone into Portland, we can't talk about
New York.
No, not New York, because they haven't got the problems yet. Give me another.
You haven't got the. Do you pay attention? You just said give me an example. I'm giving you New York. They've had 400% increases in retirements and resignations from the police force. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, has defunded the police by $1 billion. He's taken it off their budget. So what they are doing...
But they've still got police. I'm talking about a complete walkout and just said, okay, you're right. What?
No,
the army... Okay.
Good.
No, if the police just said enough's enough of their various cities, they're all... Good. Individual said enough's enough. We're out of here.
I like your thinking.
Let's see what the community does then, and eventually they'll restore order themselves, and they'll have whose phone?
Your phone?
They will create their own police force and an order themselves.
Don, I only give you 3 things to do when we come in here. Bring your notes, which you didn't bring.
I forgot them.
Speak into the microphone, which you don't do, and turn your phone off, which you haven't done. You've got the.
I can't find it.
You've got the. What's it called? The 3 of them, not the trifecta. You got the. What's 3 called? Is that called trifecta?
It's called trifecta.
You got the trifecta. Don't speak into the microphone. Don't bring your notes and don't turn your phone off.
So is this the last podcast I'm doing because I don't live up to your...
Don, listen to me. You are onto something here, Don. I have said many times, and I'm saying it. I'll say it again, that what they should do in America is let those... cities and states that are run by Democratic mayors who want to defund the police, the police should step right aside and let them lapse into chaos and anarchy, and just see how the inhabitants of those states, no matter how much they squawk, the activists, the majority put up with it, and then they won't put up with it, and they'll end up, you know who they'll end up re-electing, don't you? Donald Trump, because he says he will do something about it. And when they completely dismantle the cities that they live in and they realise this is not the way to go, we're being overrun by activists and anarchists and Marxists under the guise of Black Lives Matter, they will re-elect him, and they don't understand that.
Okay, when do you think they'll start and judge our period in time? When do you think they'll look back on this period of time and said, we did nothing?
Who did nothing?
Us in this period of time.
What didn't we do?
Nothing, because all we do is talk. We don't do anything.
What are you talking about, though?
Well, when will we be judged?
You're talking about
when will this period of time be judged? How far down? How many years ahead?
Do you say we've done nothing? What does that mean, Don? You've been about reconciliation.
Anything.
No, but
we talk the whole time. We don't do anything. Climate change. We don't do anything about it. We don't try and rectify the droughts and whatever else that happened in Australia.
Of course,
It's all very well talking about it. Do something.
We spoke with Rob Gell here
and listen, in all due respect to Rob, and I tried to ask him about, an irrigation system up in the north of Queensland, how we could do it. But
Don,
why are you blaspheming?
Because I'll tell you what, mate.
Don't blaspheme.
I'll tell you why, Don. Because in order to change the climate or carbon emissions, you have to have a replacement fuel, a replacement energy, and there is just not one. Plenty of research is going on, and you say we talk about it.
Fuel's not required to keep the Darling River full.
Fuel is required to do anything on this planet, Donald.
It's a matter of just diverting water from up north.
Either directly or indirectly. So people are trying to address the climate change. We've had that discussion. We even had the discussion about maybe the sun is responsible for a hell of a lot of the climate change. Maybe just something that we don't have any control over. So how do you reckon if we, how do you reckon the AFL are going at the minute? They're in a state of flux.
I can't believe that.
What's that?
I can't believe that.
What's you mean? They're in a state of disarray.
That's what I'm saying about the vaccinations.
They've got their head up their backside. And for all those people that criticise people like me and us for having an opinion about how this competition's going or the race debate, they are culpable more than any organisation, and this is what happens when you don't get a job on your merits. You get a job because there's a pecking order at the top. Who is running this competition?
Hang on, what are you saying, that the AFL, there's a pecking order, or you don't get a job on your merits?
Of course you don't. What is if you put the hours and time in the bottom office, you go to the middle office, then you go to the immediate office.
But you've got to have some ability.
Well, I'm just saying there's a pecking order there.
Well,
and
it's an art to be. Listen, can I give you a word of?
If you put
a word of wisdom, it is an art. Now listen to this: an art to be an employee. Do you understand what I'm saying? Think about it, because you need different qualities to get off your ass and go and make yourself into a self-made man, running your own business and setting up your own business. It is an art to be an employee and climb the corporate ladder.
If you're in a business where you start at the bottom and because of your tenure of office or the tenure that you put in, you get there because you've put the years in, not on merit, but just on...
That is an art to be an employee. That's part of it.
So I'm just saying
acknowledge what I said. Microphone, I'll ram it.
I'm acknowledging what you say, Don. I'm listening very carefully to what you say. You made some very good points today. This is good. Don't bring your notes ever again. Because you
don't you agree over there?
You don't speak off microphone to someone you don't know who we're speaking to. So how do you reckon the AFL are going? They accused indirectly me, of being racist because we have an opinion about some individuals, and yet they are culpable for the most disgraceful display of racism, saying that a certain group of people, the Indigenous people, are not as healthy and not capable of looking after themselves, and therefore we better take them aside and inject them with something else other than what we're injecting the white players with. You cannot get a more flagrant example of racism, and I'll tell you, he'd be no fan of mine, and I don't mind if he's not, but Joel Wilkinson is onto something. Those people in the top office have got their head up their ass. They have no idea what they're doing. The competition is in crisis. They're thinking of going down to Tasmania. It should never have started in the first place. It should never have recommenced the competition in the first place, because the most populous state with all the football teams in it, most of them, are not allowed to play here. No crowds are allowed to go. They don't know where they're going to play the grand final. They're in a state of disarray.
Are you watching
and it comes from the top.
Listen, let's talk something positive. Are you watching the football?
Not at all.
Okay, well, there's two young guys that impress me. Now, we both played in the ruck. Tim English, you haven't watched the young fella?
I said I haven't watched any
football. Well, there's a young boy at Footscray.
Good.
His name is Tim English.
Good.
He's 22.
Does he speak it?
Could be a good ruckman in the future. Now, there's one. Now, there's another boy who wears your number at Geelong?
No idea.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Number 17.
Yes.
He should be playing in the ruck. He's got
What's his name? Well, you don't know it either.
Ratatouille?
I don't know who.
Well, I watched it. I just watched him. He's got a great leap. Now you should
Great
be.
leap.
He's got a great leap, but he doesn't know how to use it. He's not quite as tall.
I had a
but
great
he's got
leap, but I didn't know how to use it.
I know, and that's what I'm just
That's why I
going
was
to go
in
on
the
and
team
say.
of the century, Donald.
Will you be quiet?
Yep, certainly.
You should go down and teach this fellow. He's not quite as tall as the other.
I'm not allowed in Geelong.
Will you shut up?
Oh, that's why I don't go down.
All he needs is to be taught technique and to jump just that fraction early. He's got great mobility. He's got a great leap. He weighs at least 100 kilos. He's a big fellow, but he just lacks in the technique aspect of football. And he would be an exceptional player in the ruck because he can move around the ground, he can jump, he's strong, and he has a go.
No better.
You should be, or they should explore what you taught by jumping a little bit early.
No better exponent of teaching people how to play in the ruck than me. I've been to a lot of sides, and
so you've been good at it, have you?
Very good at it. Excellent at it. I was
So
good
you
at it when
you
I
don't recognise that anybody else is good at it?
I've plenty of other people are good at it. Plenty of other people.
Okay, well, why are you pushing your own barrow?
I was saying that there is no better
I
ruck.
taught two boys who got in the
There
state
is no
team.
better ruck coach than me, Donald, because I understand the tech. What?
Better than you.
None, because I understand the technique. If it does mean,
Well, so I don't.
I've not seen.
Beg your pardon? My
No, no.
record, what's...
No, Don.
No better.
Hello.
I'm better than him.
Hello. I don't know what you teach people.
Well,
so
I-
how
do
can
you
I...
want- No, I don't. I'm not in...
Just a minute. I don't know what you teach people, so how can I possibly make an assessment or a judgment on whether you're any good or not, because I don't know what you teach people or tell them to do.
Well, wouldn't you inquire?
Well, I mean, hang on, because I know exactly the technique required to be successful
And
in the
you
ruck.
don't think I do?
I don't know what. Just give us.
What do you think I did?
Okay, well, you tell us your simple technique of making
Well,
some.
there's many ways, just not
Hang
your
on.
technique in doing the ruck. You incorporate a lot of different things, John, in the ruck, as you know.
You just said then, Donald. You said there's a lot of different ways to do it, not necessarily your way. I'm saying the only way to do it is the way I teach.
Well, you are very, very wrong.
Well, tell us what is the main focal or principle of teaching someone to play in the ruck at a centre bounce.
Hit
Tell
the
me.
ball.
What?
Hit the ball.
Oh, God almighty.
That is the most simple thing. There are many ways of positioning your body and whatever else.
Hit the ball.
Well, that's your...
How do you go about getting to the
many
ball?
different ways by
No.
the angle in which you approach
There's
the
not
centre
many
bounce.
different ways.
There is. That's where you're wrong. Jump early, jump into them. Don't.
Go on.
Everything that he did, that's all he could do.
Go on. And I was extraordinarily successful at it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't face.
That's
You wouldn't run straight on.
because it's just pointless doing
Why?
that. You think that if you don't run at someone or face them, that you're timid or you're scared or you're sort of frightened. That's on the contrary. You waste a lot of energy steaming in from 30 metres away like crackers keen and rushing in, and as soon as you get to the near the flight of the ball, just a nice positioned knee in the side of the ribs or over the top of the hip
I understand all that.
renders you off the flight of the ball and just gives the person you're rucking against the chance to push it down to a predetermined spot. And you never understood that, and you still don't.
I do understand, and I did develop it, you idiot.
Didn't develop anything. Well, I shouldn't say that because I don't know how you teach
I was
people.
still going in the ruck at you were playing at centre half forward, 6'3".
Yeah,
you
that's
couldn't
right.
compete.
I couldn't. I was playing in centre half forward, Don, because we didn't have a centre half forward.
No. You couldn't jump at the
Here's
end.
here's a man telling me why I played at centre half forward when he was at Hawthorn. I played at centre half forward because they didn't have anyone else, Donald.
You
And I was
couldn't jump at the end.
That's why I was playing at centre half forward, because they didn't have anyone else to play at centre half forward, and they said, seeing as you can't jump properly, why don't you play there? Because you're a very good player and you read the play well and you're exceptionally good at this sport.
You were very good at those drop kicks. They were like chipping shots at goal. Little, not chip shots. What do you use?
I don't know. You're telling it.
Your drop kicks. Did they ever cover any distance?
Can I tell you what the coronavirus has done? Listen to this. This is how people exploit the coronavirus.
How much longer are we going?
No, listen to this, Donald. A woman was spotted up in Sydney about to jump into the harbour, and a good-looking lad walked up to her and said, "Madam, what are you doing?" He said, "I can help you here. Don't take your life. Come with me. I'm about to go to Italy on a boat. Why don't I put you in a bunk? I'll stow away on with me, and we'll go over, and things will be great." And she said to herself, "Well, what have I got to lose? I may as well." I was about to wind it up. So he gets her onto the boat one night, sneaks her on and puts her into a cabin and gives her 3 meals a day and a bottle of wine every night. And this went on, and made love to her every night. This went on for 2 weeks. And eventually...
The boat was on the way to Italy by this stage?
Jesus, please, God, help me. So after 2 weeks, the captain comes down in an inspection tour and opens the cabin, and there she is. And he said, "Hello, what are you doing?" She said, "Look, one of your crew has helped me. He gives me 3 meals a day and a bottle of wine, and we're going to Italy." And he said, "Oh, I see." And she said, "Look, I've got to fess up," and she screws me. He screws me every night and has been for 2 weeks. And he said, "I see." She said, "Why do you ask?" He said, "He's certainly screwing you." And she said, "Why?" She said, the captain said, "Because this is the Manly Ferry." So, bloke walked down, tourists walked down to Darling Harbour and said to a bloke, he said, "I'm looking for..."
You're an idiot.
Bloke walked down to Darling Harbour and he said to just a tourist walked down to a bloke at Darling Harbour, this man from overseas, and he said to this bloke on the wharf, he said, "I'm looking for a Manly Ferry." And the bloke said, "Your search is over."
That's an oldie, but...
Oh, dear. I know. Now tell me this, Tom. You'll think... No, shut up.
I'm running out of energy.
Hang on. Oh, not bad. You'll think this is risque, Don, but please, and please, if you're listening, you'll think this is risque, but if you think about it, it's not. Now, just don't say, "Oh," when I start this. So this woman opened a knock on the door, and there's a bloke standing there, and the bloke said to her, "Have you got a vagina?" I know, please don't think this is going somewhere it's not. He said, "Have you got a vagina?" And the woman slammed the door and thought, "God, what a disgrace that is." So next evening, knock on the door, she opens it, and the bloke said, "Have you got a vagina?" And she slammed the door shut again, and she told her husband, she said, "Now look, this bloke's, if he does it again," and the husband said, "I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll stand behind the door, and if he knocks on the door and asks again, you say to him, 'Yes, why do you ask?' And I'll see what he says, and then we'll go from there." So sure enough, next day, knock on the door, the woman opens it and said, "Have you got a vagina?" And the woman says, "Yes, I have. Why do you ask?" And he said, "Well, could you tell your husband to stop using my wife's?"
No, it's not.
"Could you tell your husband to stop using
my
wife's
I
vagina?"
heard.
Which means...
I know, I understand. We know exactly what it means. No, it wasn't. No. I just didn't react. No, I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of me acknowledging it.
So we'll get off the AFL. The AFL are in disarray, and they're going from crisis to crisis. Bruce has gone mad. Bruce has become a parody of himself. I'm not sure why. Anyhow, so that's where they're up to. Never, ever, the people that accuse you of doing something, Donald, usually do it because they are guilty of doing it themselves. And in spades, the AFL are making complete asses of
I
themselves.
think if I was a footballer nowadays, being in the hub in Queensland, I'd thoroughly enjoy it.
That's okay. That's fair enough, Donald. So we've relocated.
Do you see the pictures of the footballers up in Queensland?
No, that's great. That's fantastic.
No,
So,
surfing, walking along the beach
Yep.
without their top on,
yeah,
playing golf.
without their families, without their.
No. I'm just talking about the fact that
It's pathetic.
it's not pathetic.
It is.
I
They've
would like to be playing football in Queensland.
Yeah, and costing them a fortune to billet them up there. Do you know the AFL? Do you know the players have asked the AFL to pay up for their dogs to be billeted and put into dog kennels? And seriously, it's just going
I think
from
the players
crisis
don't
to crisis.
realise how
the game
lucky.
is. See,
No,
Keith,
they don't. The players don't realise how lucky they are. They haven't got outside this so-called bubble. They drafted at 18. There is another world that exists out there beside them.
Yeah, and
they get a lot of money, and they don't appreciate the real world.
That's right, and the main luck of being an AFL footballer is playing in Victoria at the great stadiums here in front of the great crowds, and that is denied of them because of the complete laxity of this government. You got 30 and 40,000 people going to games over in other states, and yet we can't play golf. You can only play golf in twos.
I wonder why we didn't follow, and I said it at the time, and I'm not saying Jacinta Ardern. I said this months ago when we first had this. We're into stage 3. They were into total lockdown in New Zealand. Why didn't we follow New Zealand months and months ago? And I said it. You
asshat.
What?
You've just answered.
What's an asshat?
An asshat is someone who's not thinking clearly. You are just saying what I've said. The government
You
here...
did not say it. You wouldn't even know who the Prime Minister of New Zealand is or a deputy.
I've said to you, the government here in this state are inept. That's why. Jacinta Ardern, I don't give a stuff about. I'm talking about this
Well,
state
they did a total lockdown.
What?
They did a total lockdown in New Zealand.
Well, this government has done, they have no idea what they're doing. They make more false and erroneous statements on a daily basis than you've had hot dinners. Now, I
know the GDP will be down in New Zealand as compared to Australia.
Why didn't you like the thing about the vagina?
What? No, what?
Why didn't you like the vagina joke? When she opened the door and said, yes, I have a vagina, why do you ask? Tell your husband to stop using mine. My wife's.
I wasn't going to give it air.
Don, what we'll do is we've got a guest coming in. Did you know that? You haven't bought your notes.
I know, and I'm going.
Oh yeah, so it'll be up to me to interview him, will it? There's just a couple of things I noticed off the wires. Now, okay. So did you hear that?
Can we wind it up?
Now,
I want a coffee. Please, thank you. Hit the button.